Hi everyone, I hope you've had a creative week. Today I'm going to show you 10 different tips for using oil pastels and soft pastels. There are lots of different ways to use them, and I'd love it if you could let me know in the comments below which is your favourite, and join our social media groups to show off your work if you try any of the tips I'm about to give you. I'm here to be your hero, so if you want extra help, I'm here for private tutorials. Just click the link below this episode and contact me and let me fix your creative gremlins. For this episode, you'll need a few things to join in. We're going to talk about both oil pastels and soft pastels and different techniques you can use for both kinds. You don't need to have the best equipment, always just go with the best that you're happy to pay for. It's better to use rough art paper for both mediums, what I call toothy paper, because it has some texture to it. Smooth paper won't hold onto the pastel at all. Soft pastel also needs to be fixed after you've finished your work, or it'll rub away over time. You can buy some very fancy fixative sprays, but I've always found that hairspray works just fine. In fact, the cheaper and nastier the better. That stuff that turned your grandmother's hair to concrete, that's the stuff you're looking for. Using soft pastel creates a lot of dust. It's a good tip to put your drawing surface on an angle. Use an easel or put your work on a board and lean it up against some hooks. This will catch all the dust at the base of the paper, which is less messy and also helps you see what you're doing. With oil pastels, it helps to keep them clean too. They will pick up other colours from your drawing, so have a wipe nearby to clear this away from your pastel end, or your colours will become muddy. Use the wipes on your hands too, because anything on your hands can transfer to the drawing. With both oil and soft pastels, you can hold them in two different positions to make two different types of marks. I often start with the side of a pastel to block out my colour areas, and then as I move into more detailed marks at the end of a drawing, I begin to use thin marks using the point of the pastel instead. You can also buy pastel pencils, which are great for finer details. However, always start with fundamental blocking out of shapes and colours. Never fret about the detail until you've got the basics down. Use your wrist and elbow as your work, don't be fiddly. Go bold and bring your whole arm into the action of drawing for a final outcome that is looser and flows more successfully. It's important to mix colours on the paper until you have the right tones. Never expect one of your pastels to come straight out of the packet and be the exact colour you need it to be. The pressure you use is also important with layering, because your paper will get to a point where it won't take any more colour. So start gently and build up your layers. You're also in danger of making your colours into a muddy brown mess if you go too far, so playing with the medium and getting used to it is important. There are a number of ways to blend pastels. With soft pastels you can use your own fingers, but this not only gets you in a mess, but you're also transferring oils from your hands, as well as other colours you've already used. You can use a blending stump for this, which is a pencil made from a roll of paper. You can sharpen it to clean it when you need to. You could also use optical blending. Graphic artists often do this, putting lines of colours close together in order to trick the viewer's eye. The pointillist movement worked in this way too, using dots of different colours to build up an image. Fun fact, this is also how your TV and colour printer work. Terry Pratchett fans will tell you that Scumble is a particularly potent brand of cider made by Nanny Ogg, but in a creative context, it's all about mark making, placing colours together to create an interesting effect in your drawing. As with optical blending, it's an effect that leaves all your colours visible and lets the eye of the viewer blend them. Is this just posh scribbling? Well, maybe, but it can be very effective. Scruffito is Italian for scratched and is another fun layering effect, but this time it's about removing colour. It's used a lot in pottery where a ceramicist will lay on glaze but then scratch patterns into it to create different colours when their pot is fired. We can only use it with the oil pastels in this context. It won't work with the soft pastels, unfortunately. It involves layering two distinctly different colours onto your paper and then taking a sharper object to scratch off the top layer, the end of a paintbrush for example, or perhaps a needle for more detailed work. Can you paint with pastels? Well, yes you can. Oil pastels are oil-based, of course, so if you want to blend colours in a more subtle way, you can use any kind of clear oil in a paintbrush. Lay down a small amount of colour and change the tone by moving it around like paint. With soft pastels, you can take a wet wipe and move the colour around. This will make colours bolder and often makes a piece more dynamic. Give it a try and see what you can create, then show us in the Artymous art tutorial group on Facebook. Share what you've achieved and get some feedback. You can also print with oil pastels. Put a good layer of colour on some scrap paper, lay it onto your art paper upside down, and then draw over the back of your scrap paper. The colour will be transferred or printed onto your piece. This can be fun to do with the kids, but it can also add subtle details to a piece and make it quite special. Now I know I said this was a top 10, but I've only got 9, so if you made it to the end, here's just a little cute doggy blep to reward you. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you enjoyed this episode, and join me in the tribe on the social media smorgasbord.